kind of start in the beginning. Where did your love for dogs first begin?
Ironically, I was deathly afraid of dogs for the first 28 years of my life. And now what's crazy is my whole world revolves around them now.
You know, I've always been the animal kid. As I got older in my early teens, I don't know, I wanted to always try to trim my parents' dogs. And so I started kind of do it yourself at home, not really knowing what I was doing.
Well, I always grew up with dogs, and I couldn't imagine life without having a dog. So when I moved out from my parents' house, I was like, I need my own dog. What kind of dog should I get?
And I was so afraid as a child because I was bitten as a child and went through rabies shots. And so my entire life, I avoided dogs because I never had them. And then when I was introduced to puppies and grew with the puppy, my fear went away and my love for animals, and especially dogs, came about because of Roxy. And crazy thing is, her birthday is the same as mine.
Parents is like, oh, hey, you know, maybe she could groom our dogs. And so they bought me some cheap clippers and some scissors. And you know, I worked on my own parents' poodles, and then that was just a kind of a passion for me. I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I wasn't that good at it at that time. Didn't know what I was doing, but I certainly wanted that as a job. I thought that was just and I was young. I was 14, so
Wow.
I mean, who knows at 14 what you're really doing, anyways? But that was something I wanted to do.
And I always grew up with golden retrievers and had golden mixes. And so I was doing some research about things that I like to do. Like I like to hike and swim. And I wanted a dog that was really smart, that could do tricks. And I lived in an apartment at the time. So I wanted somebody that, you know, wasn't too big, that could maybe have the apartment life.
So I grew up training dogs. My mom was a dog trainer. We used to show and things like that. So it's always, as long as I can remember. So
I have had dogs my whole life. I grew up with dogs. My parents had dogs. We had all kinds of dogs.
And I found Milo's breed, which is Nova Scotia Duck-Tone Retriever. And I had never met one, but I was like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. They look similar to a golden, but smaller. And that's kind of how I fell in love with the breed.
And when I was a kid, I was sort of shy and retiring and lacked people skills. That was my mother's definition. And so she enrolled me in dog care 4-H. And clearly it worked out okay for me.
I mean, since I was young, I've always wanted to have some kind of pet. We actually started out with some bunnies, which are fun, but maybe not quite as loving as a dog.
No, I think my story is very similar to most other veterinarians or veterinary professionals. I've always had a love of animals. Really enjoy all types of animals. Dogs are really probably the ones that pull at my heartstring the most.
The funny thing is that the main reason we actually only got a dog until I was a teenager is that my dad, who is now my co-founder of Doglog, was the main resistor of getting a dog. I actually remember my sister and I created a PowerPoint presentation for why we should get a dog. And after a couple of years, he was finally convinced, and we got our first dog, Joy, who was a Labradoodle.
And I didn't really know I wanted to be a veterinarian until I was in junior high. And I had a pet, a basset hound, who developed lymphoma, a form of cancer. And it was at that moment that I just decided that's what I was going to commit my life to, was to help animals.
I have loved pets my whole life. I always had a dog growing up. We always had a cat. We went to the Humane Society all the time when I was younger. Just was an activity that we did to just go love on the dogs that were there. And I've always been around pets and gravitated towards friends that had dogs. And just always loved pets.
So I grew up with animals, growing up in the Catskills of New York. And we had dogs, I had horses, there was the random cow and pig. And it just always was, you know, I was an animal person.
Actually, growing up, I was really afraid of dogs for like a really long time. And I never had dogs or anything like that growing up. We had, you know, like hamsters and guinea pigs, like the little smaller pets.
Right.
But I never had my own dog until I was in graduate school, and I was recommended to get an emotional support animal, and I adopted a dog from a shelter when I used to live in Louisiana, and then she just became my world.
And from my childhood, you know, competing and showing my horses and then the dogs, I just grew into an animal person and then a future veterinarian. So I almost feel like it was preordained.
Well, so I grew up in Hong Kong, and there wasn't a lot of dogs there because it's such a busy city. Sure. And we lived in flats that was probably as tall as what, like 70 stories. I don't know. I can't keep count. But not a lot of dogs until I moved to America, which was, I think I was around 10 or 11 years old. And my first dog was, we adopted the dog that our uncle had.
I feel like I was born with it, actually. I have always loved animals, and I wanted to be a veterinarian until I took organic chemistry.
And he was abused, unfortunately. And then we rescued him, and I had no idea what taking care of a dog was. And we had to figure it out. We had to learn. We didn't know any English. All we can do was just show the dog some love.
I got acquainted again with my mentor from childhood and took a bunch of classes with her and rekindled my passion for dogs. And the rest is history from there.
I was actually not allowed to have pets as a youngster because I grew up in New York and we couldn't have pets, but it didn't bother me. I took every stray that I saw and brought them home, and my parents said, I'm sorry.
I have always had a soft spot for animals since I was little, and I think that came from my father, who was very compassionate towards animals. He had a lot of pets growing up.
So as soon as I was an adult, I started getting as many pets as I could. And so as a performer, I was always surrounded by my dogs and my cats who would come to my side because they were so profoundly affected by the music.
When I was super young, my mom decided to start a little dog boarding business. So we said, you know, maybe if we watch a dog here and there, nothing crazy. We did minimal promotion and the demand was crazy. I'll never forget one Christmas, we had 12 dogs in the basement that we were watching for a week. 12 dogs. Wow. And we were having the big Italian family over for dinner. So that's where kind of my love and my passion for dogs came in, because you have to learn how to manage 12 dogs.
My compassion for animals was there from a young age, and I've always had relatives and friends that had pets too. And I got a dog when I was 13. So I was a little later in life to getting a dog, and he completely changed our lives. And he was a great dog. We had him for 16 years. He was a rescue.
Every dog has a different personality. Some get alert, some don't. How do you walk 12 dogs? And that's when I really learned as well, is just dog training. How do you manage all this? And of course, I grew up with golden retrievers my whole life. So for me, the first thing before even moving out, before getting furniture, it was, I want to get a dog. And that's exactly what happened. Didn't even have a couch, but I got a dog.
I'm pretty sure I was born loving dogs. The funny irony of it all is that I am actually incredibly allergic to dogs and cats.
Wow.
My family has had dogs since I was an infant. And the first dog I remember was an Irish setter that we had named Shane, who I adored.
It started with me wanting to be really hands-on with animals as a child, and my mom being like, you have to bring your inhaler with you everywhere, and I did it anyway. I loved it. I said, I don't care. And so it was all that hands-on experience of getting to work with animals when I was younger that really led to what became politics one day.
I love Irish setters, and we've had English setters and English Cocker Spaniels, and now I have toy breeds. So, you know, I just love them. There's unconditional love that you don't get from anyone else.
Thanks so much for watching this Dog Mom News clip. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome and informative Dog Mom News content. And while you're at it, ring the bell so that you can find out about more content in real time. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, everyone.